Hey Dev Team, welcome back to Flutter with Drag and our quiz app, which I'm hoping is going to be the last episode. Now, I started off this series by saying I wasn't a designer, and don't get your hopes up, but this is going to look fantastic. It's not going to look fantastic, but it's going to look better. Normally when I create an app, I hand it off at this stage to a designer to make it, or to do a design for me, which I then implement. However, we can improve the design somewhat, and that's what we're going to do. Now, let's start off with changing our quiz model, because one of the things I want to do is also have an image for our quizzes, have some graphics in there of some sort. So I'm going to make another Hive field, which I'm going to call image URL. And that's going to be a string, of course. So let's put that in. Hive field, it's going to be 7, and it's going to default to empty. Now, doing that means we're going to have to put it in to all the rest of the places. We should be able to do that with generate data class, and that should go through and put everything in. We'll just need to add it to our empty, so we've got a default one there, and generating that data class again has probably undone the defaults we've got in here, so we just need to be aware of that and put those back. Okay, I think that is all we need. So saving that, we then need to update our model. So Flutter packages run pub run build runner build. Okay, that's built and that's good to go. Now we've got the image URL. Let's come back to our web server, which is already running as usual on port 5501, and in our quiz let's put in a image URL for some of our items. Now, in order to do this, I have downloaded some images from unsplash.com. I can't include these in the repository, but you can go to unsplash.com and find them yourself. I've just downloaded a sports, a music, and a knowledge image. And in the assets folder, I've also downloaded one that I've called question.jpg, which is going to be a backup image in case we can't get the other images over the network. So we've only got the one image included in our bundle. The rest are going to be set and coming over the internet. So image URL, let's just paste in the URL of our server, and this one can be knowledge.jpg, and I'm just going to copy that line, come down to quiz 2, and in there this one can be sports. Doesn't really matter, it's only for demo purposes. Come down to quiz 3, and this one's going to be music, and then I'm going to copy quiz 3 and paste it in again, so we've got 4 quizzes now, and this is going to be called music quiz 2. Give it a unique ID, music 2, and I'm not going to put an image for that one, so we can test how that works. I've got one too many commas there, take that out, that should save and be good to go. Okay, let's close those down, that should all be fine now. Now we've updated that, I want to take one more look at our quiz repository, and we want to be able to force this check for update. At the moment we've got it set duration 7 days, and I don't want to have to keep changing this to minutes or seconds and then remembering to change it back. So what I'm going to do is, in our check for update, in curly brackets so it's named, I'm going to create a bool called force, and I'm going to equal that by default to false. I'm then going to say in our if statement, if force or date time now difference, so on and so forth. So if force is true, this is going to run, or if the difference is more than 7 days, it's going to run. Now when we check for update, we're not calling force, so let's save that and come to our main.dart, where at the bottom we've got sorry, not there, it's our home page. So come to our home page.dart, where at the bottom we've got this development page, and I'm just going to take that button that we've got, copy, paste it, and I'm going to change this to force update, and then instead of calling empty hive, I'm going to call check for update force true, and save that. So pushing that will get our latest update. Okay, let's restart, come to our emulator, go to our dev page and click force update, and within our dev console we should see do our update, which we do. So hopefully now under music we have 2 quizzes, which we do. So we're good to go. That's the setup we need. Okay, let's get some design doing. The first thing I want to change is this bit here where we've got the list of our quizzes. I think we can improve that quite a bit. So let's come up to where we're creating that, and that's within our home page, and it's this list tile. And instead of a list tile, I'm just going to knock that down and comment it out, although that might be one too many. Yeah, that doesn't need a comma. Let's comment out that list tile, and instead of returning a list tile, we're going to return a quiz card. Now quiz card doesn't exist yet, so in our home page I'm going to create a new folder called widgets, and this is widgets for our quiz home page, and I'm going to create a new file called quizcard.dart. That's going to be a stateless widget called quizcard, and we need to import material, and then in the widgets folder I'm also going to create a new file called widgets.dart, and this is going to be our barrel file, and we're just going to export the quiz card and save that. Coming back to the home page, then we should be able to don't need a semicolon there, we should be able to import from our home widgets.dart, and if we save that and save our quiz card, we should be able to reload with no errors. Of course there's nothing in the quiz card yet, so let's do something about that. Let's just understand that we're going to need our quiz in here, the quiz information, so let's do a final quiz, and that's going to be required, because without a quiz then obviously we can't display anything. Coming back to our home page, then we can pass the quiz into it, and the quiz is this. So let's copy that and paste that into here, quizzes index. Okay, so now we've got a quiz coming into here. Save that as well. The child of our container can be a text, which is the quiz.name. And a save of that, we can see we've got our list of quizzes back. So we're going to need, I think, some decoration on this container. So I'm going to put a box decoration, and I'm going to put on, just so we can see it, a border.all, colors black. Okay, and we've got that border in. So let's just think about the content that we're going to want. Next thing I want is definitely a bit of margin around this. So I'm going to put a const edge inset all 8. Okay, and that will do. That'll give us our spacing for now. Now within our box, I want more than just the quiz name. So I'm going to wrap this in a row, and we're going to take the quiz name and we're going to do a few things here. First of all, I'm going to set the max lines to 2. That means if our quiz name was long and it started going over more than 2 lines, it would cut itself off. It wouldn't allow that. That's just a bit of a safety feature for us. So we've got our text, and then at the other side of the screen, I want to have some information about the quiz. And I'm going to call that quiz info. Let's make a new widget, which I'm going to do in here for now while we're working on it, so we don't have to switch between screens quite so much. Not a stateful widget, it's a stateless widget. Quiz info. And this is going to be a column of children. And I want to have in there a row children, and I want to have first of all an icons.timer, and I want in the row some text which will say how long the quiz is going to take, 10 mins for example. Save that and have a look at that. Okay. The icon timer I think can be a bit smaller, so let's set a size here to be size 12, and I think that's okay. And then I want another row, so I'm just going to copy the first row, and this is going to be the number of questions, so 5 questions, and I'm going to change that to the help icon. Okay, now I want those to be over on the right hand side, so coming back up to our quiz card, let's wrap this around. I'm going to wrap the text in an expanded widget, which will force it to take up as much space as possible. And then in our quiz info column, I'm going to set the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment start, so they're lined up. In each of the rows between the icon and the text, I think we want a little bit of space in there, so I'm going to put a size box width of, let's try 5, see if that's any good. Yeah, I think that's okay, so I'm just going to copy that down to the one below. and we could put a bit of spacing actually between the two rows. I'm going to put 5 between there as well. I think that's probably okay. Now I don't want to hard code the number of questions, so we're going to take that. We've got a variable already. We can just say the quiz, which we're not passing into here. So we're going to need two things in here. We're going to need, and we can just pass the quiz. Yeah, final quiz, and let's pass that in as well. That can be required. So that needs to be passed here, quiz, and then here we can put quiz questions length to string. Actually, we probably don't need the to string because it does that automatically anyway in this curly brackets. Doesn't really matter either way. Okay, so that gives us our correct answer there for questions. For the time, I want to be a little bit more sneaky, and so I'm going to come back up to the quiz model, and I'm going to put this in just above our empty. I'm going to create a getter that returns an int get time, and that's going to return basically a made-up time based on the number of questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put questions.length multiplied by 0.3, because I think each question is going to take, or in my head I'm going to set that each question is going to take 20 seconds to answer. So that's a third of a minute. So that will give us the number of minutes as a fraction. But what we want to do is we want to round that up. So I'm going to then call ceil, which will round that up for us. Now a better way of doing that, and if you were going to do it, would be to add another field to our database here and into our JSON with the amount of time that quiz is expected to take. But I'm going for the quickie cheaty method here. Okay, so with that in place, I can come back to our quiz card, and in here we can just put quiz time, and that should give us a time in minutes. Yeah, 2 mins now for those. Okay, so that's our quiz card taken care of, and now all that's left is an image that I want to put in, and I want to get that over the network, and there's a good package called cached network image which I'm going to install. So Control-Shift-P, add dependencies, cached network image, and let's give that a second to come in. And once it's loaded, you will need to stop and restart your app. So I'll just do that now. Okay, we're back up and running. So within our row, as our first child, I want to put this image. And so we're going to use cached network image. And that takes an image URL. And the URL is going to be quiz.imageURL. Okay, let's just save that and see what happens. We have a massive image. Okay, but it's there. So let's do a few things with it. Let's set a height, for example, and I'm going to set a height of 50, and I'm going to set a width of 70. save that. And those have come in. And the aspect ratio for those are the same, but if they weren't, we might see some gaps. So I'm going to put fit box fit dot cover, and that will ensure that they both take up the full space, and it will be cropped automatically for us. Okay. Now, while loading stuff over the network, it can take time, and I don't want an empty box to be there in that case. So we're going to have a placeholder which takes a context and a URL. Neither are what we're actually going to be using. And we're going to return an image asset from our assets folder. And I created an image which I showed you called question.jpg. And that also needs to be a fit box fit cover. So if we refresh, if you watch the images carefully, you'll see that initially we get the question mark, and then as the other ones are loaded in over the internet, they come in. Okay, let's have a look at music where we don't have a URL for one of them. And we get this error box here. And that's because we're having an error. And the error is no host specified in URI. But another error might be the network is down, or the image is missing from the server, all sorts of different things which we need to handle. So just like we've done placeholder, it's going to copy that and paste it again, but instead of placeholder, this is going to be error widget. An error widget also takes an error, but in our case, if there's an error, we're just going to show the question mark anyway. So if we save that, we've now got our question mark in place. However, the whole thing would be better if we didn't even load a cached network or try to load an image over the network if there wasn't an image specified. So this will take care of the network being down and network errors, but we will take care of it up here, and we will say quiz image URL is not empty, then do the cached network image. Otherwise, here, if it is empty, then we're just going to take this image asset and display that. So if we have an empty string in our image URL, we're just going to show this question mark from our system. That's gone massive because we've not constrained that, and so we will need to set the width of this to be the same as the box above, and the height to 50. Okay, and that solves that problem. Right, next I think I want to put some rounded corners on our box. So let's come back up to our box decoration in our quiz card and put in a border radius of border radius circular 10, and save that. And now we've got a new problem, and that problem is that the corners of our images aren't rounded, but we'll come back and we'll fix that in a minute. Let's just concentrate on the rest of the box first of all. First of all, I want to make the black a little bit less prominent, so I'm going to change that to black 12 for our border. That looks a bit better. And I want to put in a box shadow, which is a list of box shadows, although we're only going to have one. We're going to have a box shadow which has an offset of 5 and 5 and a colour of colours black 26 maybe, we'll go with that one, and a blur radius of 5. Save that. Okay, that's given us a nice shadow, but of course we can see the shadow underneath our container, so we just need to add a colour to our container, which is going to be colours.white. Okay, now in our row, after our image but before our expanded, I want to add a sized box width, let's say 10 there. Yeah, and I'm going to copy that right to the end and put a bit of spacing at the end, and that is it for that. In fact, I'm going to put a bit of spacing in between our expanded. I'm going to put 5 there. That might force text onto another line, but that's okay. It'll give us a gap between our info box and our quiz name. Okay, so what we need to do now is, with this cached image, is try and find a way of putting rounded corners on that. And actually that's not too difficult. What we need to do is take our entire quiz image, cut it, and put it inside a clip R rect as the child. So I'm just going to paste that in and add our comma to the end there. That will do nothing by itself, but within our clip R rect we can now put in a border radius dot horizontal, because we only want it on the horizontal on the left hand side, and we're going to put in a radius circular 10, and that clips that nicely. Okay, one final thing then, I think on this quiz info the text needs to be smaller, and I'm just going to come up and wrap this whole column here with a widget, default text style dot merge, and then up here we can put a style, text style, font size, let's go with 10. Yeah, there we go, that looks a bit better. Maybe 11. Yeah, maybe 11. Okay, we'll leave it like that. And that's all I want to do for the quiz card. It's a bit of an improvement. I'm sure it can be improved a lot further, but not by me today. So onwards now to our category list at the top. Oh, back on our home page we can delete this list. Oh no, I've just realised we've missed a bit, or I've missed a bit. The quiz tile does nothing. We need to add in our on tap. So I'm just going to copy that, come back to our quiz card, and just wrap the whole thing with a gesture detector and paste that on tap method into there. And then in here we need to import our pages, and instead of state quizzes index ID, it's just going to be quiz ID, and then comma at the end, format that. Okay, let's test that. It should take us to our general knowledge 2. Okay, bit of an oversight there, but there we go. We can delete that now. We have our quiz card being displayed. Okay, so within our widgets folder that we've got, let's create a new widget file called categories.dart, and from our home page we'll just cut the current category and the category button into the categories.dart, import material, import homepage qubit, and import Flutter block. That should be everything we need. In our barrel file, we'll then export categories.dart, and in our home page we can then delete some bits from the top, all the things with blue underlines. Okay, save that. So let's come to this categories file now. We have our row with our category buttons in, and it's really the buttons I want to style. So instead of returning an elevated button, let's return, for now, a container. We'll have to wrap this in a gesture detector after, as long as I remember. Let's return a container, and let's return the child text, and the text is going to be whatever the text is we've put in already. Okay, quick save, double check what's going on, and it's looking wonderful. Let's just style it a bit now. I use that word loosely. Decoration, box decoration, color, and we're just going to use the main theme color, so theme of context dot primary color, so that's going to be the same as the app bar and all the rest of that. Border radius circular of 10 again, I think we're looking at. I think that's okay. Yep. We'll need some padding in here, so in our container let's do padding const edge inset symmetric, vertical 5, horizontal 16, 15. Yeah, maybe a little bit more on the vertical. Yep, okay. We'll also put some margin around it. Again, const edge inset all 10. Yep. And then the text style, colors.white, font size 12, and I think that will do. I'm not really spending much time on that. We just need to wrap our gesture detector around it and put that in. So on container, wrap with widget, gesture detector, on tap, and paste. And we can then delete that return from the bottom, save that, and we can now double check this works, and it does. And that's it for the home page. I'm just going to, only thing I'm going to do is just center the title of the app bar. Actually, there is one more thing I'm going to do. In our categories, it is possible that we'll have lots of categories or more than 2. I'm going to wrap this row in another widget, which is a single child scroll view, and set the direction of that to be axis horizontal. That will center it, but it will also mean if we copy the categories, if we had a load more categories, it means that we will get our scrolling and be able to do that without any problems. Depending on what your app does and how you want it to work, you might need to completely revamp how that category list works, maybe a drop-down menu or something. But for us, that's it. Let's now move on to our quiz pages.